We can order it. Just you don't know if just remind me about this week.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Murray City Municipal Council Committee of the Whole meeting. It is August 22nd, 2023. I'm Gary Gretzky, the chair of the council. All council members are present. And welcome, David. Member. We are going to start with approval of the minutes from the Committee of the Whole, July 18, 2023 and August 1st, 2023. Are there any revisions or changes?
No.
All right, with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole of July 18, 2023 and Committee of the Whole August 1st, 2023.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Then we will move on to the first item on our discussion item on our agenda, discussion on the Murray City Municipal Justice Court. Jim Peters, Justice Court Administrator, Administrative Office of the Courts, will be presenting. Looks like we have Mr. Doug Hill as well.
Just want to introduce Jim. Jim has been our contact at the state level for our justice court. Of course, I want to also recognize Karen Dagos, who's here, who's our administrative court clerk at the justice court. And we've been talking a lot with Jim lately over the last few months because our judge, Paul Thompson, is aging out of the court system. They have a maximum age requirement for judges, and he'll be reaching that age next, I think it's May.
What age is that?
75, right?
That's what I was thinking.
So Jim has been asking us as a city, what do we want to do? There are a few options which he will discuss with you tonight as to how we want to move forward. And so we've been meeting with Jim, and he's been trying to understand what the city wants to do. Now, I can tell you that, and I don't want to speak, Mayor, for you, but the mayor does have an opinion on the direction that he would like to see the city go, and I'll let him talk about that when we review those various options. And right now it's an administrative decision for the mayor to decide what direction we want to go. But ultimately it becomes a legislative decision because you will eventually have to weigh in the process. And so we just thought you should understand the process, the various options are available, and you can share your opinions with the mayor tonight. And based on those opinions, he'll know how he wants to move forward. So with that, Jim.
Thank you, Doug. And ultimately, I'm here to get marching orders from all of you as to how you want us to proceed. Unlike other city hires, the Justice Court judge is something that the administrative office of the courts is heavily involved in. And I don't know if you caught the legislation that came through this last session, but it clarified that much more, that a justice court really is part of the state judiciary. That's something that we partner with cities and counties to help in the operation, but ultimately the idea is that the justice court in Murray and the justice courts scattered throughout the state would look and feel and operate very much the same. So we, by statute, are involved in the recruiting process, and I've got a few slides that I've passed around that'll provide an overview as to how it works if you ultimately decide that you want to keep the court and replace the judge. But there are two other options that I'll just highlight briefly for you. Cities and counties that are frustrated with their judges often call me, not often, I shouldn't say that, but on occasion, they do call saying, how do we get rid of our judge? How do we close the court? And the answer is, well, it's complicated if there's a judge on the bench. But if there's a judge that's not on the bench and you're in between judges, then it's much simpler. So I did want to let you know that it is an option to dissolve the justice court. when Judge Thompson retires next May, and the court is without a judge, the city could decide that it didn't want to operate its own justice court. Cases that originate here in Murray could go to the county justice court by default. The complication there is, I want to let you know that at this point, Salt Lake County has provided notice that it wants to dissolve its justice court. Now, in order for them to do that, they have to get legislative approval, because the default after a county justice court is for those cases to be heard in the district court. So there's a fiscal impact. Legislature's got to weigh in on that and fund it. And I don't know. We haven't seen any resolution come forward from the county. Of course, it'd be a little early for that at this point. And if it does, I don't know if it'll pass. We haven't had something like this before, so we'll just see how it all goes. But dissolution would be an option for you. But another way that you could preserve a few options going forward, but not necessarily operate the justice court in the meantime, would be to do an interlocal agreement with the neighboring jurisdiction. So one example of that here in the valley is Cottonwood Heights doesn't operate a justice court. Holiday hears those cases. Mill Creek just did the same thing. Mill Creek doesn't operate a justice court and never did. And it's now working with Holiday to hear its justice court cases. Outside the valley, there's a lot of other examples. The Washington County Justice Court hears cases for St. George and 5 other municipalities down there. So that'd be an option. And one thing that's better about an interlocal agreement than dissolving altogether is that in all reality, if you were to dissolve the court, you wouldn't likely ever get it back. This isn't baked into statute, but one of the rules of thumb that the Judicial Council goes with on the need for a justice court, and the statute does require that an applicant demonstrate a need, is that there not be another justice court within 25 miles. And here in the valley, we've got 20 or whatever. So that might be a hard burden to meet, but I'm not saying it's impossible. But if you do an interlocal agreement with somebody, say that you interlocaled with Salt Lake County, then the advantage of that is Salt Lake County runs the justice court. You all still prosecute the cases that originate here. You contract for those services separately. But if you ever get to a point where you want to revert back to your own court, then you terminate the interlocal based on its terms. You demonstrate to the council that you're ready to operate your court again, and you've got it back. So it's as though the court never went away, it just went dormant. So that's an option as well. But what I assumed was that in all likelihood you would want to keep the court and replace the judge. So that's what these slides will talk us through. But before we start on those, are there questions about those first 2 options?
When you say the council would make the decision to dissolve, that's this council, not some other council.
Yeah, and thanks for that. There's a judicial council that I work with that's going to ultimately approve or deny certain requests. It's the Murray City Council
that would determine we want our court coming in. Okay,
Yeah.
something. Just wanted to make sure.
But that'd have to be approved by the judicial council to show that you got everything that you need in order to operate within the court.
Could you tell me why some of the cities in Salt Lake County are getting rid of their courts? Is there a reason? Is it finances or burden?
I think the reason Mill Creek, and I can only guess, honestly, but I think the reason Mill Creek's doing it is because they're worried that Salt Lake County, which had been hearing its cases, has petitioned to dissolve its court. And like, oh, well, then we need to figure out something else. Why Salt Lake County is doing it, I'm honestly not sure. I've been in my position for 6 years, and I know there was talk before then of dissolving the court, and I think honestly it depends on who's in office and how they view certain things. And you all will have to wrestle with the same decision. There's 2 ways to analyze the desire to have a court. And one is, well, of course, we want to provide a service to our citizens. And that's one way to look at it. And another way to look at it is, well, is it making us any money? Or is it costing us money? And the analysis becomes all dollars and cents. And so with Salt Lake County, it could have been either one of those or neither. I just don't know.
So what are they doing? If they dissolve their court, then
If it gets approved, it goes in the district.
it goes,
Yeah.
where will their,
Well, the first thing is that they have to get legislative approval to do it. So they go to the session this year, or they could even go as late as next year because they had to give 2 years' notice. If the legislature approves it, then there will be a fiscal note that allows the district court to manage that increased workload.
interesting. We looked at this, how many years ago, Mayor? About 4?
5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah, 4 or 5. Yeah, and we decided that, because it's a service to our citizens, and it just didn't make sense to dissolve it at that time. And, it was much more complicated then than it would be now, since we
Or
are
in between
judges.
judges. Yeah, exactly. And I'm here to support whatever you all decide to do. I don't want to, steer you one direction or the other. All the options are on the table, and there's a jurisdiction somewhere in the state that's gone with any one of them and been happy with it. There's probably others anywhere in the state that have opted for something and regretted it. But that's like I say, with the interlocal, you do have options going forward if you want to bring the court out of dormancy.
And with the interlocal, you're paying that other jurisdiction to hear your cases.
Yes, the Judicial Council doesn't get involved in the terms of that agreement. What we're doing there from a legal standpoint is basically saying, and let's just say it's Draper, just to have a crazy example. Draper's jurisdiction is limited to its city boundaries, just like Murray's is. And so what's happening legally, if Draper and Murray were to enter into an interlocal, is the Judicial Council is expanding the jurisdiction of Draper to hear Murray's cases. But in terms of how the revenue is split, how the expenses are shared, all of that, that's between Murray and Draper. So
This West Jordan also, they have their own court.
they do. Mhm.
It's kind of
Which-
what we had looked at before.
Which we were approached by Mill Creek at one point before they went to Holiday. Is that what I understand?
correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's lots of conversations out there, and
Yeah.
some of them materialize and some of them don't. But then, of course, the third option is to keep the court and replace the judge. And we're coming up on September, and we're going to need a new judge on the bench in May, and that's 8 months away. And it's like, oh my gosh, we got all kinds of time, but we really don't. And I'll walk you through the timelines here, and you'll see how it all adds together to go, wow, we should get started. And there's pros and cons to getting on this right away versus holding off for a few reasons, but again, I'll let you all decide what makes sense to you. But that second slide on the first page just provides the overview, and you'll see how all these timelines add together. The first thing, obviously, we do once I get the green light is to advertise the vacancy, and that's something that we do together. The statute has recently changed just this last session, and that's summarized in the bottom slide there on the first page. But there's all kinds of things that we need to work together on to get the word out. What we've done before the statute was changed was we would issue a press release for at least 15 days, and if we don't get at least 9 qualified applicants as a result of that, then we extend it for another 15 days. But in between the two advertisements, it takes a little while for the mail to trickle in and see what's going on. We're not an electronic process yet. We're working on becoming one. I don't know if it's worth waiting for that, but that's in the works right now. But so it's not just the 15 and the 15 days, it's the time in between to wait for the mail to come in. But so you can easily get to advertising the vacancy to where it's 30 to 45 days while the applications come in. At the same time, and I'll provide a little more detail on this in just a minute, but we're working on forming a nominating commission. So again, different than a typical hire for the city, the applications all come into the administrative office of the courts. We vet them to make sure they meet minimum qualifications. And we provide those then to a nominating commission that's comprised of 5 different people. And like I say, I'll go over that in a minute. So the nominating commission then has its first meeting, and that starts another timeline ticking. So from their first meeting to when they have to finish their work, they've got 45 days. We've got 45 and 45 and 45. They all add together pretty quickly to get us to 8 or 9 months. And it can go faster for sure, as I'll explain in just a second. Once the nominating commission has finished its work, it's going to narrow the pool of applicants down to a slate of 3 to 5 people. And they then will be published for public comment. So that'll all go out and people will weigh in on whether those applicants would be good as judges or not. If we get any negative comments back, that adds even more time to the process. Because then what we do is we go back to the applicant and say, oh, look what someone said about you. And they have an opportunity to respond.
Oh, wow.
And the comment and the response then go back to the nominating commission. They have to decide if they're going to keep that person on the list or not.
And that has to be a formal, like, email or public comment to?
In writing.
In writing, okay.
Yeah.
To the city?
Yeah. No,
Or to the commission?
To the commission.
Okay.
Through me, yeah.
Okay.
So once we get through the public comment period, which is at least 10 days, but then maybe more, depending on what comments come back, then this whole package goes to the mayor. And the mayor will get these 3 to 4 to 5 people, and whatever due diligence he and his team want to conduct. They dig in, they interview, they research, they go observe these people in other courts, whatever they want to do, in order to decide which one person they then want to recommend to you all. So the mayor has 30 days once he gets his applicant materials, and then he'll meet with you, and you all have 30 days to ratify his decision or say no. So ultimately, the final say rests with the city council here. But even after you've approved the person, if they haven't been on the bench before, and some of these judges have multiple jurisdictions. But if they're brand new to the bench, then they have to go through a new judge orientation, which in this case, we would try to get them into an April session, which is already a month sooner than maybe we were looking at for Judge Thompson's birthday. And after they get into the new judge orientation and pass our tests and successfully complete that, I then take their name to the Judicial Council, who certifies that person as a justice court judge. And as soon as that's done, they take the oath of office, they can get on the bench and start hearing cases. Swearing in, we're used to being at a little bit more ceremonial. Maybe they come to a city council meeting and they don the robe and they give a speech and there's cookies afterwards. That part isn't necessary for them to have the authority. They just need to sign off on an oath. But often, cities will do both. So we can work that out as we get closer to April. But that's kind of the timeline that we're looking at. And like I say, if you start from April and work backwards, then we probably ought to get going here in the next month or so.
Yeah.
So as you think about these different steps along the way, how, in your experience, how often has the city council not ratified the mayor's selection?
Not in my time.
Never.
Not in my 6 years. Before that, I guess there was a time when South Salt Lake's mayor and the council weren't getting along so well. I don't know if that's even still true. And I can't remember if it actually got in the way of their new judge.
Okay.
By the time this one recommendation gets to you, that person's been vetted up one side and down the other. But again, the council itself, you all are entitled to your due diligence as well. This person that you're appointing as a judge will probably outlast all of us.
Right.
Right? Judge Thompson's been on the bench since 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a decision it's big, and it's going to have a huge impact on the city. So.
And typically, are your applicants existing judges that want to get on the Murray City Court, or are they attorneys? Is that more typical what you see?
Either.
Okay.
Prior to 2016, not even Salt Lake County's judges had law degrees.
Oh,
And that changed in 2016, and now this last year, it's
They
changed
have that law
statewide. Yeah, they did.
You can't be a judge.
I don't want to. Dangerous.
So the new law took effect just on May 3rd. We're working through Grantsville right now. Utah County is going to put another judge on the bench. So for Grantsville, it's new, but for Utah County, the law degree would have been required anyway. And in Grantsville, we had 10 people apply. So
And a mix of judges and attorneys?
Mhm.
Okay. So is it kind of like you don't like the court you're in and so you want to go to a different court, it's closer to home? Like I'm trying to figure out why a judge would leave one post and want to go to another.
Well, not all these positions are full-time,
Okay.
right? So
Oh, okay. I
the
see what
judge
you're
in Grantsville would be, working 10 hours a week, and maybe they're interested in more income than that. Once you become a judge, you're limited in the kind of law you can practice. You can't do any criminal law at all. So
For the city.
in order to make a living, some judges will combine courts to be full-time, and it benefits the smaller courts at the same time. Because if you're the judge in Alta, and that's the only court you have, you're hearing cases for maybe 20 minutes a month. And it's going to take years and years before you get really good at that. Whereas if you're hearing cases all day, every day, and you're doing Draper and then you're coming over and doing Murray, and of course that all has to be scheduled with the attorneys who are involved. But the cities benefit from the increased expertise, just like the judges benefit from the increased income. So.
And is our judge full-time? So he has enough caseload?
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't remember. I know she showed us the chart.
Yeah, and that would come up in the vetting process. If other judges were to apply, one of the first questions from the nominating commission, the mayor, all of you would be, wait a minute, you have other courts and you want ours too. How does that work? How are you going to do that? And some of them have really good answers. So, it's worth asking the question. We've got a judge, he serves courts in Sanpete County, Paiute County, Sevier County, I think just the three, but he's got 13 courts. And he does a really good job with all of them, so but they're very small towns, but he's just got to figure out how to schedule all these attorneys and get around them.
R2D2 has an opinion.
So Mayor, Doug said you have an opinion. Are you going to share that opinion with us?
Yeah, I don't mind doing that now. My opinion is to keep it. It's not a cash cow by any means. We're about 200,000 in the negative. Brenda, is that for the?
For the budget,
For the budget.
current
So
year
it's not
budget,
over.
yeah.
So it's not a money maker, it's a service. It's not, and we have a lot of employees. What's that?
We do everything on our own.
We really
so we
do.
should.
Yeah. Discussion. Let me ask real quick. I'm familiar with GL's explained some of this vetting, and when we do that, I've always kind of included the council in a lot of stuff, so we don't have what you talked about, South Salt Lake. Is that something I can do? How do I ask this? So if we have vetted, you've done your vetting, I didn't know. Put out of the council for confirmation, can I bring them in for the process at all?
I'm actually not sure, and even if I were, I'm not sure it's our business to tell you how to run the city. So I'll check into that for you. I think it's a fantastic.
I've got an answer for me, look at him. I should have looked over there.
You can govern how you govern.
Okay, then that would be the way I would do it.
That was what you told me to say before the meeting.
And so rather than surprise them and go, oh, I wonder if they're gonna put it there, I'll know my answer well before.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like asking somebody in the interview before you know what they're going to say, right? That's a good way to go with this.
That's a pretty good analogy.
So,
I have a question
Yeah.
about the vetting process, or just seeing the comments that come in from the ones that are selected. Does that get shared with the council as well, or as the whole body, or it's only with the commission?
I believe that's just with the nominating commission.
Okay.
We'll check that as well.
I mean, I just thought I would ask.
My understanding, they do their own
And
thing.
that nomination commission or committee is with the commission, correct?
Let me explain that. This bottom box talks about all the ways we have to notice up the position, but on the back page at the top, the statute explains what the nominating commission, how it comes together. So there's three positions outside the city,
Okay.
and those are already in place. So that helps us with the timeline. For Utah County, for example, that application period closed 5 or 6 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting on the COG appointment. So, I mean, some of this gets out of my hands, and until the commission's in place, we just can't move forward.
Right.
But in Salt Lake County, we have somebody that's already been appointed by the county commission, and these are 4-year terms, so that's why they can be in place already. The COG's already appointed somebody, and the bar's already appointed somebody. So those 3 are ready to go. The other 2 people on the nominating commission come from the city. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but ultimately you're going to want somebody who's, understands the court, understands what it takes to be a good judge, is good at vetting applicants and screening with questions and interviews.
So that really can be like the staff or the mayor, the county.
Yeah, there's restrictions on some of these others where they can't be elected officials. That's not true here, so you could even have the mayor with 1 or 2. And this one is a governing body appointment, so those 2 names will ultimately come from this group. And of course, you don't want it to be anybody who might be putting in or might be very closely related to somebody who's putting in, because that kind of defeats the process. So that's how that nominating commission is comprised. And I may have alluded to this earlier. They meet at least twice. The first time they get together, they're just pouring through the applications. And they're deciding in that meeting who they want to interview. And then the second time they get together, they conduct those interviews. And then there might be that third meeting if it's necessary to go through a negative comment. But they only have 45 days from their first meeting until we have to open it up for public comment. So we have to move quickly once things get started that way. And then this last slide here in the middle of the back page is just a summary of what I've mentioned already. After the nominating commission and the public comments, gets handed off to the mayor. He's got 30 days. You have 30 days after that to ratify it. So if you're working together, really, you have 60 days. You may not need to take 60 days, but maybe you will. So it depends. And then you let us know what you've decided, and we put the judge through orientation if need be. And I take it to the Judicial Council. I'm assuming it will be looking at the 3rd or 4th Monday in April. So if we get everything teed up the way it needs to work. Oath of office and onto the bench. So.
Any other questions from the council?
No.
Okay, well, we appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. I guess you did want some direction. I mean, is there anyone who was not feeling like they wanted to move forward and keep the court and fill the court seat? No. Okay, so I think we're all aligned with you then.
What I'll do is prepare an announcement. And this box that we didn't go over, I mean, there's just all kinds of notice stuff. Between you and the AOC, we need to get it on the Utah Public Notice website. We need to get it on your website. The critical thing with that is that we've got to make sure the applications come into the AOC. Because if they come into Murray instead, they're not going to be part of the process. But I can work with Doug on that and we can get that going.
You mentioned on the committee that there might be some restrictions. Is there a restriction on the outgoing judge sitting on the committee picking his replacement? There is.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
curious.
good question. Okay, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to the second item of our discussion items, a discussion on an ordinance amending sections 3.14.060 and 3.14.070 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to impact fee adjustments. GL Critchfield presenting.
You ready to be the
Future
judge?
So, impact fee that we currently talks about, that you challenge it enough, it brings to the city council. I don't recall when it was first drafted, I didn't draft it, this many years ago. I assume since that time, state law has come forward with a procedure that has to be administrative. The appeal would be administrative, and we talked about this among ourselves on the administrative side. The recommendation is gonna be that we put in the ordinance, take out the city council and put in instead, the finance director to be the one that decides on the appeal. That would be if when someone has an impact be imposed on their development and they disagree with it, then they have a chance to appeal that that would be good. At least currently Brenda.
I have a question, why the finance structure, not community? I guess,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I guess
Really,
it depends what the impact.
Good question, it's a really good question. I think there's not necessarily a wrong answer, but my sense would be that the finance director is aside and apart from the development process.
Yeah.
Because your CED director is going to be pretty well involved with each developer, and that puts him in a little bit more difficult spot, I think, making that decision as well. But it's a really good question.
Go ahead, sorry.
What would be a reason that you would waive an impact fee?
Anybody can ask.
Typically, you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't unless there's a specific exemption for housing ordinance. What this is going to deal with is we've already had a couple of inquiries on park impact. And I think what developers are looking at is the amount. And when the couple that I'm thinking of who have talked about possibly challenging it had their development applications close to going in before this impact fee came, and so it was kind of a surprise to them, the amount. So they may want to ask that it be reduced. There's some that may come in and say, we have done this as part of our development, we've built this trail, or we've done something, can that be partly, can that offset partly what's required?
What is the park impact fee? Does it depend on the size of the development?
Yeah, it does. It's,
The percentage,
I don't recall.
Okay.
is it like
It's-
13%?
It's all done in some sort of,
Sorry, that may be way
either
high.
measurement,
Okay.
and then multiplied by, I wanna say, square feet or something.
Okay,
That's
sounds
it's- yeah.
Wow, there's a 3 in there.
Yeah, you have a number there.
Could it be also, I'm just putting this out there, I'm
Sure.
sure you guys have already discussed all of this, but could it be a committee that the mayor appoints?
It could be, it's an administrative process, but what that typically means is someone within the city.
Has to manage it, yeah.
Yeah, so it would not be private people coming in as a committee. It
No.
could be a committee of employees, I suppose, that would be a possibility. But really, to me, it's a matter of mathematics. This is what we have as our standard impact fee. Tell us why that shouldn't apply.
Is it defined if something, a developer are under certain circumstances wants to have it waived, do we have that defined? Is that
We don't
cannot,
waive impact fees like that.
we cannot,
We don't.
okay.
Yeah. This is that one-time charge to mitigate the impact of the development.
Right. No, I
And that is the ongoing way we pay for increased capacity and whatnot. So it would be unfair to those who already paid and enjoying the infrastructure.
I'm just wondering why they were even questioning it.
Yeah, so one actually has, just real quickly, has built something they believe is a system improvement that we should, and they were thinking that we would go dollar for dollar. And that's not how we're looking at it. So it would be reduction, but not elimination of the impact fee.
That's why I was wondering if we have that defined.
That's defined. And so in terms of how we figure that out, yeah.
And what's the state code again that?
This is 11-36A-703.
I know that they had talked about it when I was up there, about changing some of the rules in terms of
Yeah,
who gets to administrate the impact fees and who gets final say. And I know that was a big contentious.
yeah, I don't think anything came of it, that last legislative session. This whenever this changed, it must have been years ago.
Yeah, so it must already been in place.
Yeah.
As it does directly impact like the financial side of things, is there a way just to ensure we're informed? Not necessarily making the decision, but can we put it in there that, you know, the decision is left with whoever's designated in here, but the council will be informed at the next regularly scheduled meeting of a waived fee or something like
That
that?
would certainly be that
I have no problem with that.
yeah.
I just think it'd be good for us to know that we're waiving fees and what developments and that sort of thing and how, and maybe we test it, because it has a direct.
So he's just asking just to get a confirmation, the information.
Yeah, informational, not that we approve it or
Yeah, no, no.
anything, but we're literally like, we waived this development's fee, cause I think we need to know what it was and why it happened, cause it has a direct financial impact to the city.
Right.
Yeah,
That's more-
this, I also thought that it'd be nice to be kept informed.
GL, I just have a question. Sorry. This ordinance is to adjust, not waive. Right?
Correct.
Okay. I just
'Cause
want to
I'm-
be clear, they
I
wouldn't be
know.
waiving anything, it's
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
adjust the amount.
But in the event that, could they adjust it to zero, in theory?
I don't see that, but
But there's nothing restricting them from adjusting to zero.
I guess, I mean,
Why don't you do that? Well,
I,
why?
You have to have a pretty compelling argument.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you, I'm just trying to make sure that I understand.
because the developer's bringing in residents that are going to impact our
Right.
Jordan River Parkway.
I disagree.
yeah, interesting.
I'm just saying they could.
They could,
in
we're just
theory.
understanding what the role could be.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the boundaries here.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful to inform the council.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when I read it as well. So
So with that change, I would be comfortable.
Well, and I'm comfortable, I mean, I think Brenda can like hold it down.
Yeah.
For sure. I guess what I worry is if there's a situation that becomes uncomfortable, that, you know, who steps in that point?
would you step in, GL?
I mean,
No.
I'm assuming
when
so.
you say uncomfortable, what do you mean? It's
I mean-
always uncomfortable.
Right, no, I mean,
It's the money.
or wants, yeah, I mean, I guess my concern is like, there's a real, I mean, in terms of with developers, there's this idea that sometimes they get what they want, right?
Sure.
And they could be kind of pushy. And
We
one,
have that.
yeah, and I would hate for that to just fall on Brenda. And that's why I'm saying, like, is it something that, who's the backup? Besides, I mean, I guess the attorney's office?
The same vein as you, but similar concept is what if Brenda has a conflict of interest?
Sure.
Let's say that the developer's her brother.
Well, with all of just so you know, and you know me, this is how I run it. You definitely have GL involved. Even now we do that. We have that developer who wanted to waive because he was so close. Close, I feel bad, close. So we didn't waive it.
Or even if there's, yeah,
So inherently, it says in here, because the director of finance and administration shall have the authority to make such adjustments if the application or person is not satisfied with the decision of the mayor or designee, so that immediately calls him out as the person. You're designating her, but in the event, it could be you. Okay, I follow.
I'm just making sure.
No, I know, yeah, it makes sense to me.
Because, I mean, reality is we don't know.
Sure.
I-
If there's,
Right, I mean-
there's like- It's something to.
No, I know. And if there's a conflict, is that something that we can, I mean, that Brenda would be aware of and the mayor would be aware of? Like, if there's a conflict of interest?
That's an issues there.
Yeah. Is that something that has ever been put into a resolution or into a code change?
So the ethics code that we have.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah.
Do that.
Because you can have an impairment department,
Yeah.
married, and issues.
Making sure we have
Yep.
information. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Jill. And seeing no other comments, we are adjourned and the RDA meeting will be in there in 4 minutes. Goodbye. Glad you're here. We always did.
See it. Scares us. But whatever. You get to tell people how it's so money. Oh, yeah.
Could this happen?
Sure.
I feel better.
It would take maybe one time.
It would be over. Yeah. I just like the idea of us being informed because I think that then we can, if we are like, holy crap, we're always waiving this, then change the ordinance and don't have it anymore. So we don't have to waste time waiting. No, but okay, adjusting. Bueller.
Yes. I always know mine, I was just gonna be disappointed. I published you. They tell me, like, do your town stuff on the house, and I was gonna say to the department. Jennifer, needs to say, I'll just take it off my door. And there we go. Personally. We need more time. Too fast, cause I'm.
Diane? Well, they, Diane.
Huh?
We go with it.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We don't show it.
She wanted that.
She doesn't know. We went on different things. You're talking in this meeting. You want more time. Okay. We can have more time.
Yeah. It is 5:45 and time for the redevelopment agency of Murray City. Okay, the first thing on our agenda, well, first of all the RDA members are present. We have, we don't have, we have Laura.
Yes.
Laura, welcome.
Thank you.
We have the mayor, we have GL, we have our new council member, who is our new RDA member, David Rogers. Present is
Pam Cotter, Rosalba Dominguez, myself, and Gary Huarkesi, and Jennifer Kennedy, our director. So, welcome to everyone. And let's see, our RDA meeting agenda is pretty full, so we better get started with the approval of the minutes for May 16th, 2023 and August 1st, 2023. So I will take a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes for May 16th, 2023 and August 1st, 2023.
Do we have a second? I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, seeing none, the minutes pass. Okay, second, we have citizen comments. Just an aside, public comments can be made in person during the meeting or may be submitted by sending email, including your name and address, to rda@murray.utah.gov. All comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and email comments will be read into the meeting record. Do we have any citizen comments? None from the email? Okay. Okay. Oh, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, I would.
Great.
My name is Dylan Barney. I live on 4902 Box Elder Street, which is just over here. When I saw the item number 3, the action item, as far as the consideration of resolution, as far as sales of certain properties, I'm concerned about when that property is developed, knowing how much mediation we put into place to keep the contaminants from getting into my home, which is just a couple of parcels away from that property. And the other one is to find out some way to get the property boundaries corrected so that the property boundaries in that area are correct as far as where the people are living compared to where the boundary lines are at the time. And I did send an email out to Phil, and he sent some things back showing me where the different property were that were being affected, the 043, 042, and 39. The other properties, there's a 040, which is my neighbor, and 019 is a parcel that goes down my driveway, which is really it's kind of on the tax records, it shows somebody else owning that property, but for the last 60 years, that's where my family's had a driveway, and a home in 009 is where I live. There's just parcels right in a sequence to each other. It's not shown on the map, but I get concerned about anything moving into that neighborhood, especially now that the city hall is here, the fire station, and the future development, and the meeting that was held a short time ago discussing what was going to happen on State Street. So I've been involved in these meetings as far as RDA for quite a long time, and I'm concerned about what's happening in my specific neighborhood now, specifically right next door to my property. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Barney. Any more citizen comments? All right, hearing none, we will continue on to number 3, which is an action item, and that is consideration of resolution number, there's no number.
Right.
Authorizing the marketing and sale of real property within the central business district located at approximately 4868, 4878, and 4872 South Box Elder Street, Murray, Utah.
Thank you. These are the parcels that Mr. Barney was referring to. They are directly west of us here from City Hall. And the city has, staff has decided, and actually RDA did approve a resolution to sell these parcels. And so this is, you haven't approved the resolution yet. The discussion was to move forward with it. So we're asking you to go through with this and put these up for sale. They are being sold as is, And we are aware that there is some level of contamination on those. We're not aware of the severity, but it's more or less buyer beware. And we have had some interest in the parcels, speculative, but we'll see if they're serious and how they want to go about doing that if they do indeed offer us a price.
Okay, Mr. Markham, our CED director is our presenter. I guess you're called a presenter now. Anyway, thank you, Phil.
Okay. Any questions on those, or?
I have a question. What is it currently zoned as?
That is a good question. I don't have the zoning map in front of me. Is it, it's MCCD. So it's in the MCCD.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question, Phil?
Sure.
When these properties get sold and there's contaminants in the soil, will they be in strict laws, like the Bullion Project?
Sure. It would be an EPA project.
Okay.
Or state oversight, and we're not involved in enforcing that. There are very strict regulations that govern the cleanup of these materials. They either have to be hauled off-site or properly mitigated on-site, encased, or, depending on the level of contamination, there are various mitigation methods that they would use.
Okay.
But yeah, it's very, very strict.
Okay.
Just to kind of go over the process, once we sell, the applicant or whoever purchases the property could come back and ask for assistance from the RDA to help.
I would
kind of
think that's
mitigate.
possible.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, just clarifying that, because I
Sure.
know we've done that in the past for
Yeah,
other
I would think
properties.
that that's possible. That would be terms of a sale that would have to be worked out between the RDA and the buyer.
Yeah, it's RDA money.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
just putting it out there.
Mhm.
Okay, thank
And
you.
you've had interest in this property.
There's been speculation, for quite some time, but, it's really hard to say how serious they are until it actually does come up for sale.
Okay.
Quick, last question I have. Is there a reason why we're not keeping the property? As a city?
It was explained to me that, first of all, the contamination, the city does not really want to deal with that at this time. It's an odd-shaped parcel. It's smaller even when you combine the three of them, it's not a significant parcel. And so it's something that an experienced developer might want to try his hand at, but it's not something that the city's really interested in, keeping on the roll.
Yeah, it's probably not something we want to develop as a city.
At one time, there was speculation of putting a fire department training facility there and stuff like that, but that has since changed.
And do you know who owns the parcel right west of that, closer to the tracks, or is that a part of Union Pacific? Sorry,
It may be the railroad,
Yeah.
a loading yard.
It looks like it's
Yeah,
way
It's
close
probably a loading yard.
Will you?
I was just curious.
Excuse me, it's UTA that does own that.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Thank you.
That's right, they did store cars there a few years ago. They had some surplus cars sitting there for a while.
All right, thank you. That's all my
Will
questions.
you let us know when these are sold
Oh, absolutely.
and who bought them?
Yes, as the RDA board,
Yes.
it's money that you're
It'll
responsible
come
for.
to us, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Markham, so you would like us to have a motion?
Yes, I would, I'm asking for a resolution and vote on whether to sell the property.
What would be the number on that?
It will get a number once the
Yeah, I
resolution is
don't-
approved, isn't that right?
We don't have a
GL?
number yet,
We don't have a number,
so it's blank.
so it's gonna be blank.
Yeah.
We typically just say consider a resolution. Yeah.
Okay.
So will you take a motion?
Yes, I would appreciate a motion.
I will make a motion that we adopt a resolution authorizing the marketing and sale of real property within the central business district located at approximately 4868, 4878, and 4872 South Box Elder Street, Murray, Utah.
Do we have a second?
I will second that motion.
Is there discussion on the motion? Okay, Laura, would you take the roll?
Yes, Mr. Lexi.
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Carter?
Aye,
Ms. Cotter, sorry.
it's okay. We're all good.
Ms. Dominguez?
Yes, aye.
And Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion passes. And
For the next item, Zach is going to present a couple of items here. He's with me, Zach Smallwood, one of our planners, and then I'll be coming back for the discussion items later in the agenda.
awesome.
Thanks.
Welcome, Zach. All right, so you're doing discussion item number 4, which is providing additional funding to NeighborWorks of Salt Lake for use in their down payment assistance program.
Yes. So this was discussed in the RDA planning meeting, and I believe it's been discussed before the board before. So we do have some additional set aside for the moderate income housing. And NeighborWorks is blowing through their existing $200,000.
Wow.
I think it's already been committed for this year that just started in July. So we are looking to provide an additional $200,000 for that down payment assistance. So we would like to just get, have a conversation and see if that's something that you guys are interested in doing. And if so, we can work towards crafting a resolution and all that fun stuff that the attorneys get to write up for us. And we get all the fun
Okay,
stuff.
so this is for discussion only,
Yeah,
correct?
discussion only. Yep, no action.
All right, and what did they do with that 200,000?
So it would be exactly like what you guys fund for your annual $200,000 that you give to NeighborWorks. It would be for down payment assistance. This would be citywide. This is for any residents. That's separate from the employee down payment assistance that I'm usually up here talking about. So this would be citywide for for anybody here in the city. And there are stipulations to that, obviously. I believe it is restricted to low and moderate income people as well. And I think first-time home buyers, things like that.
Could you speak up a little bit?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, it's for low and moderate income housing and down payment assistance for those, so.
Diane,
Questions for Zach?
can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Zach,
Mayor?
30,000, is that correct? You said 30,000. Or maybe you didn't, but that's what I was thinking in my head. Is it per?
I think 30,000 is what they give out,
Is that
yeah.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, I believe they go up to 30,000,
That's-
5% of the home, $30,000 per applicant.
You looked at me like, I didn't say that. No, I was thinking that in my head.
It's all right, no, it's funny, because I was drafting up the stuff for the employee down payment assistance, and I had 30,000 in my head, so I'm like, this is a weird moment that I know I didn't say it.
So 30,000 is the maximum,
Yes,
and they've already gone through it for this fiscal year.
it's already been committed.
And so do they have a line of additional people waiting for commitments? And is 200,000 sufficient? Are we going to be through this in the next month? And we're going to need to do another resolution for more?
So that's entirely up to the board. You guys do have a housing set aside in a lot of the RDA areas. So committing that money is entirely up to you. So the 200,000, yes, that's just an easy way for the city to provide for some additional affordable housing options. But that doesn't mean you have to give them the 200,000.
No, I guess, what I'm asking is they've already committed the first 200.
Yes.
We're giving another 200. Are there a lot of people waiting currently to get that next 200?
That one, I don't know for sure. I don't think they have a waiting list. I think just once they just tell them we don't have any funds available at this time. I think it's a first come, first serve.
The reason I'm asking is because if we should allocate, because if we have the funds set aside already, and I don't know how much we have in funds set aside, and it's money we need to spend towards a project like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, do we know how much we have set aside, Brenda, in this program?
Couple $1 million.
I just think, and if it's not like they have to qualify, they have to live in Murray. So if we give more, it's not like if they don't use it, it just disappears and gets used for other things. It has to be used for this specific purpose.
It would have to be used for that specific thing, yeah.
Quick question, so the 200,000 that we set for employees, that's already been allotted?
That's,
employees,
yeah, from.
correct?
Yeah. Oh, wait, for employees?
Yeah.
Yes, that has been, yep, that just got finalized last week.
Okay, so this new 200,000 is open for residents and employees? Or
I don't think it,
or
I
whoever?
don't think it restricts for employees,
but
it's
it
just
opens-
residents.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then it will open it up to residents?
Yes.
So the first 200,000 was allotted just for employees?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
No,
So-
so.
Okay,
Two separate
I was
programs.
confused, because
Yeah.
I thought you mentioned both of them, and so I was just confused.
Yes, I apologize.
No,
So
that's okay.
I'll go through it. So every year, at least for the past 5 years that I've been here, the city or the redevelopment agency has provided $200,000 to NeighborWorks. And then this year, or I guess last year, sometime recently, I asked, as part of the moderate income housing, to set up a new program, a pilot program for the employee down payment assistance. So that is separate. So that one is completely separate. So this would be an additional 200,000 on top of the 200,000 that has been done yearly for the past few years.
Do we know on average what NeighborWorks does in other cities, or what they've done in Murray, if what the need, like, do we have those metrics to kind of base if we do give more money, or are they gonna come back for more money? I guess that's a question for NeighborWorks.
That's more of a question for NeighborWorks for sure. And if you guys want to have more of that kind of discussion, we can invite them back to kind of discuss that a little further.
Okay.
And so to ask the council, I mean, the question that is sitting in my mind is, if we give more, why does it hurt us? Like, I'm just throwing numbers out, we give $500,000. What's the difference? Because if they don't spend the money, it still has to be used for this specific purpose.
Right.
My concern is if we don't fund it enough and they get someone that comes to them asking for the assistance and they say no, they say no, we don't have any funds. They don't say no, we're going to the council to get more funds. That person may not come back, and we may have lost out on a good opportunity to bring someone into the city that maybe needed to use this program. So that's more what I'm thinking. I'd rather have sufficient money, and it sits there, it has to be used for this program, and it's already we already have the money.
Zach, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. You've got Trip Lane that NeighborWorks is doing, okay? And then you have this 60/40, and then you
That's
have
a
the.
whole other discussion.
Hold on. And then you have the employee one, okay? Could hypothetically put myself in that situation, I could go in and buy one of those houses that NeighborWorks has, and I could apply for the employee because I work for Murray City, and I also could get this 60/40. Could I get all this and live on Trip Lane with a NeighborWorks house?
I mean, I don't think anything would be stopping you. They may have a clause, NeighborWorks may have a clause that you can only receive one of their benefits, but I'm not.
I'd like to see something in that, so someone that's going to Trip Lane is getting, a house and is getting all these extra things.
So I mean, what you have to take into consideration as well is that a lot of this down payment assistance is for first-time home buyers.
Right.
And
Yes.
moderate to low-income housing people as well.
Which Trip Lane will be for the houses.
4 of them, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm just looking as the district
sure.
person.
Yeah.
That a resident, somebody could come in and apply for all these
Yeah, I could get.
programs, and, thank you, Zalba, and
Yeah, we
walk
could.
out with a, $500
But we
loan.
could also include that into our agreements with them, that they can or can't, too. I'm assuming if we go into an agreement with them.
Yeah, and I can look into it with NeighborWorks.
Yeah.
As you know, Elvon's on the board here.
Yeah.
I can have him reach out as well, and we
Yeah.
can get a more solid answer on that one for sure.
So if we were to increase the funding, because we do have the money, Why would we not do that? Are there any contraindications for us to do that, to provide more funding? We just want to be able to,
Of course.
allow as many people as possible to
Yes.
have that funding.
100%. And
I was able to get some additional information from Doug. Tony Simone is watching the meeting tonight, and he indicated that in 2022, NeighborWorks distributed $629,000, Doug? $649,000 in Murray, and they had that total amount based on savings from previous years and so forth. So the account was growing. They've gone through that, and now they're looking to reestablish this account. That's why the first 200,000 was completely done. And if we didn't give them any more than that, then the program for the rest of the year would sit idle. So we were asking to match that again. Any more than that, or well, any amount is totally up to the RDA board.
Right. So would there be any reason that we should not provide more funding than just the 200,000 that from your perspective that we could?
As long as there's money in the budget and it can be managed, that's entirely your decision.
the only thing I would also add to that is you also want to, I mean, obviously, you say like you have, I'm just throwing out a number, I don't know what it is. Say like you just have $1 million just sitting there in your RDA affordable housing set aside, right?
Right.
I don't know if, and this is entirely up to your legal counsel and everything, but in my opinion, I would do more funding to them for sure, but I would still keep some funding in there in case something, some other program that interests you guys as a board would be something that you wanted to fund. Like, for example, if we had originally just taken all the housing set aside and just given it to NeighborWorks to deal with, we wouldn't be able to have the discussion about like the MTAP, which is that transit thing, so.
That's what I want to hear.
Yes, so I wouldn't say, I would say yes. I mean, there's definitely, it does do good for citizens of Murray, for sure, to give that additional money. And I think that's a great cause to go for. But not necessarily just throw all of it at NeighborWorks.
And we can also implement like a cap or something of the sorts.
Yeah,
I mean,
and this is
if they're getting up over 600,000, we could say 400,000 is your cap, or 500,000, and then a lot for other programs if they come available.
And also to be clear, this is just a one-time 200,000. So for this year. So next year, they'll get their allotment of 200,000. And then if you decide, during the budget process early next year, that you feel like you want to increase that larger, then that's definitely a discussion to have as well.
And can we, sorry, Mayor, go ahead, Mayor. I can ask my next question.
I just want to make sure that, because Gary had asked that question earlier, and I'm not sure, but I think we were answering it, that this is all the money could be used for, is this program. And that's why Gary was saying, well, why don't we do it now rather than wait, but this can be used for any project that's for low-income housing.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for reminding me of that. Yes, so this is so this money isn't specifically set aside for NeighborWorks.
Correct.
What it's specifically set aside for is affordable housing. Right. How the RDA chooses to use that is entirely up to the RDA. It just has to work towards affordable housing.
Right.
It does not necessarily have to go to NeighborWorks.
And does it grow over, do we continue to put money in this?
Yeah, where does the money exactly come from?
Part of that tax increment.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
so it will continue to grow. I guess where my mind is sitting is this is something that actually Jill and I have talked about a lot, is around the fact that NeighborWorks meets one of our mission. I think he says something like it meets one of our missions that we have to do, which is the low income housing. And I don't know if we have a lot of other good examples of where we are spending this. So my concern with either capping or not funding this more and sitting on a bunch of money is eventually it's gonna get to the end where we're gonna be like, well, now we have all this money, and what are we gonna do with it? Because we're not necessarily thinking of a ton of other ideas to deal with low-income housing. And so this is one of those ideas that I think is in place.
And I'll tell you, the next discussion item is probably an idea for.
Good. Well, no, I don't disagree, but it's still, we have millions is what I'm understanding, and it's growing, so.
Okay, so we need to continue on. We've still got a lot to cover. So I guess the discussion is that we definitely want to do the 200,000 and perhaps more.
Okay. Okay.
And then make sure you check if they can go into trip lane.
If they can compound it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I will
Get this one and get this one and get that one and,
Okay, so what I'm going to take just from the board, I think we're gonna move forward. We'll craft a
Yes.
resolution for 200,000 at this time. Or do you want to do something different?
So that would be a total of 400,000 in the current fiscal year, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
What you'd probably want to do is come back with the 200, and
Yeah.
if they want to change it, that.
Oh, they can just change it at that. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, good. Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't sure on
No,
the
you're
process.
fine.
All right, so are we good? Does that
Thank you.
Provide, okay, great.
Very helpful.
Let's go to number 5, which is a discussion item on NeighborWorks, again, 60/40 loan program. And Zach Smallwood.
Yeah, this one I'm just gonna kind of go over really high level. Again, no action is necessary. We're just looking for feedback and whether we should proceed, or how we should proceed. So if you remember, back on July 18th, Tony Simone did come and provide a presentation on that 60/40 loan program.
Yeah.
If you have questions about it, I can generally answer it. I know it a little bit, but I don't know too much about it. But it is to utilize those, 4 of those properties over off Trip Lane to provide that type of financing. And so staff would like direction on whether we want to pursue that. I believe it was close to roughly about $1 million. It was $900 and something thousand to do this program. It is a loan. It is not forgivable, so it would be paid back and could possibly be reinvested back into something else in the future.
And again, we had some late information concerning the loan program from Tony as far as when the loan is paid back. Our assumption all along has been that that would return to the RDA. It does not return to the RDA. It continues to stay in a revolving account that NeighborWorks will continue to administer this program with.
Wow.
But
So
where would-
it slowly does grow their program.
Okay.
But their core mission is the same. The money would be used for the same purpose.
So really, essentially, we can give them like a pot of money and then that just keeps
It
revolving.
perpetuates is the
Okay.
theory, yes.
But it will
Sorry.
have
No, you're good.
restriction.
Apologize.
Right.
That's good.
Yes.
And
That makes sense.
so yeah, that is something that we did want some feedback on. And I would leave this open enough to say that after staff updates, if you guys want to discuss that a little bit more in depth, we can talk about that as well. But do you guys have questions on the 60/40 at this point?
So when they get done with Trip Lane and they have this pot of money, where do they go next to do the same program in the city? Do they find another piece of property and do the same thing?
That could very well be. They could do something, maybe, this is just throwing out ideas. I
Right.
can't speak for NeighborWorks, but like maybe they could find a piece of property that they can flag lot. And so they end up creating a flag lot subdivision, so with a house here and then a house behind it. And they end up doing the 60/40 loan program on the house behind it. There are opportunities for things like that, especially in cities like ours.
Yeah. So really, it prolongs our relationship also with NeighborWorks so that we are meeting those metrics within the city.
Yes. Yeah, I would say
And-
that.
And then also if property does come up, let's say the west side of here. I mean, that can be something that they can attain or, with that money, I'm
Definitely.
assuming to continue the loan program.
Yeah, they would still continue.
I mean,
to
that's
utilize
just an
that.
example.
Right, exactly.
Or it could be my personal parcel or something. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'm just.
No, you're good.
So we can.
No, you're good.
I just want to make sure
No.
we all have examples.
Yeah,
and Pam has
definitely.
an example.
I agree.
Yeah, there, see, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
I agree, I'd like an example too.
So Pam, when you're ready to sell your house.
Well, I just think that Trip Lane is such a unique subdivision in my district that would they be looking for another piece of property so they know down in the future they're gonna have to have something? Would they be looking at something so they could continue this kind of a program? I mean,
I think
or
that
would it
would
be
be
just dead and like, that's it, we're done?
I think that would be a great question for Elvon when he brings it up in his next NeighborWorks board meeting.
Oh, okay.
Or if we can have it guaranteed so it stays within the city, the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, sorry. Welcome.
Thank you. It is constrained that it needs to be used in Murray City.
Okay.
Again, we're not sure on those uses specifically, if they're gonna be buying another property or if they can just use it to continue to offer better loans to low-income individuals.
Okay,
But it does
awesome.
need to be used in Murray.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, do you have what you need?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yes, I think so, at least for now. Yes.
Okay, that's good. We need to continue on.
Yes, please.
And we have lots of,
are
all right.
important
Are you
issues.
guys okay? I mean, is that?
Yes, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
I suggest everybody to take a field trip and come look at Trip Lane.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, we're now on number 6, which is an information item. Public Works to utilize funds from the Fire Clay RDA to install safety bollards on Main Street.
Yes. Thank you again, Chair Turner.
Okay. So Zach, you're
Yes.
gonna be the one.
Yep, this one I'm really excited about. I'm really excited. So over the past about a year, maybe a little over a year, there have been 2 traffic accidents on the corner of Fireclay and Main Street that have impacted the building right there on Main Street. Luckily, these were at off times, so nobody besides the person in the vehicle was hurt. Nobody in the building was hurt, but there was pretty significant damage to the building. And that was twice within 1 year. So the property owner approached the city on opportunities to work together on providing some better safety for that area. And so, especially, vehicular safety. So working with the Public Works Division and us in Community Development and with the mayor's staff, we came up with safety bollards. So these are stronger than the current decorative bollards that are there in the district. And they will be located right there on that corner currently. And these ones will actually be able to stop a car going, I think this one goes up to 25 miles per hour, but it will still obviously slow a car going faster than that. And so these are actually, poured into the ground and covered with a decorative cover. So as you can see on what we gave as a handout, the location of all those bollards. So we are going to be using some of the funding from we have some funds already available. I discussed it with Brenda that we could utilize this for. So yeah, we're going to be installing those. We found a decorative cover that meets the intent of the Fireclay district instead of big, bright, yellow plastic tubes. So made them so that they kind of fit with the design aesthetic of Fireclay.
So what is the cost?
That's a great question.
It's on the back page.
Yes, I believe it was approximately $57,394. Yep.
Okay, and you don't need us to, this is not an action item. We don't need to vote on this. You already have the funding.
Yep, the funding is already within the district in those funds. from what I understand from Brenda, there's some funding that we can use for things like this.
I think they're a great idea from a safety perspective. That is our responsibility to keep our citizens safe, so.
I agree.
Very
I'm really excited for it.
They kind of look like the smokestacks. If you're going to go with that one, it kind of looks like the smokestacks. But the only concern I have is, are they going to be high enough that people are not going to be sitting on them and injuring themselves? Or is there some way to
I
get
think they're
graffiti
tall
off of it?
enough. Yeah, they're like 36 inches, so it's going to be hard for people
Okay.
to like get up and sit on them.
Okay,
And they're probably only about yay big.
okay.
So-
And you'll be able to get graffiti off of them if they're spray painted?
They're literally plastic covers. So if
Okay.
there's graffiti and it's too much that it can't be washed away, we could probably get a
Okay,
new cover.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm done.
any
I'll leave you
other
alone.
questions? I know we're going really fast here, but now we're on project updates.
Yes,
Bill
and
Markham.
We will
thank
move
you.
as fast as possible on this. Just wanted to provide you some updates on previous discussion matters and programs that we've talked about. The downtown area plan, we had an excellent open house on August 14th. Approximately 50 different individuals attended throughout the evening. We got some excellent feedback from folks on a variety of issues. Our consultant was there the entire night to answer questions in addition to staff. And they are currently putting together the information that was gathered that evening. And it will be, excuse me, it'll be presented at our next open house on September the 6th here. It will be from 6 to 8 p.m. And we're looking forward to seeing what was gathered from that public comment. Okay. Any questions about that? All right.
If we're not going to, I was going to ask Jennifer, can we go to that September 6th, or is that too many of us?
There's a council meeting that evening. Is that, oh, that is incorrect. I take that back. Yes, you can go.
Okay,
We
I
can
didn't
go.
know if it was like, we're too many of us, and it's a council, and.
I would advise not hanging out together.
Yeah.
But you're welcome.
We should stand
Okay.
around one table.
What did he say?
Stand at 1, 2.
All right.
And I
Okay.
will say, I did attend, as did Councilman
Yeah.
Rogers, and it was a really robust discussion. I actually liked seeing the citizens kind of talking with each other and being like, oh, no, that's not in this area, and so there was a lot of like real live action going on, and it was very good.
We
There's a lot of
were
great
very
comment.
pleased. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Item B, the Murray Transportation Assistance Program, or MTAP. We had hoped that this program would be rolled out by now. However, we found that the contract that was involved with the people that are administering the cards and that was not sufficient. And the attorney's office is working on drafting an amended contract for this. We are ready to go with this program. In fact, Esther, the company that will be administering the cards and so forth, they are working on an application process right now. They will manage that. That will all be in their hands. We will not have any information that we will have to maintain. So as soon as that application is done, and that should be in about a week or two at the very most, I would anticipate that we'll have a contract ready for both parties to sign, and we'll be able to roll out that program. And our initial funding for that, we're going to go with $80,000 and see what the response is for transportation assistance for Murray residents only. And they do have to meet some rigorous financial guidelines in order to participate in this as well.
How does the citizens find out about this? Will this be in the Murray, the mayor's
We will
newsletter?
advertise it as much as we can,
Okay.
on the website. We'll go to different organizations, UTA,
Okay.
and so forth. So, yeah, we'll
Okay.
get the word out as broadly as possible.
Okay.
The town, excuse me, I left my water back there. The Townsend House relocation. Today I received the structural evaluation of the house, and I'm pleased to report that he says it's in great shape. He said that the walls are in great shape, the roof is not sagging, the floors are level, as level as a house that age can be. And other than the back porch, and thank you, and the front porch, the house can be moved relatively safely, in his opinion. Some of the brick may have to be repointed, which would be addressing some of the mortar to secure some of the bricks in that. But the house mover would do that. I spoke with Valgartson and Sons this afternoon also. They are the people that moved the chapel for us the last time we did this. And I'm in talks with them to come up and do a site visit and look at this. I don't know how specialized house moving is. If there's another viable provider out there, there's a chance that this could be a single source. There's a chance that we may have to go through the procurement policy on this, but it's initially I was told it could be as much as $100,000 to move the house. And then we have site improvements that we need to do on the parcel as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we expected, so.
All right.
But that's great news.
The next one, E,
I think you
5025 South State
Bill?
property. Yeah.
You didn't do C.
I didn't do C? Oh, I
Employee
did not.
down payment
The
assistance
Employee
program.
Down Payment Assistance Program. I'm proud to announce that is signed, sealed, and delivered as of today. So Zach was working on a flyer for city employees this afternoon. So that's rolling out as we speak. So wonderful. You will see that on city communications and everything. I apologize for skipping over that.
Oh, no, that's fine.
5025 South State, that is the mayor's bailiwick there. And all I can say is I can't say anything.
I can say something. It's with the attorney's office right now, and they're just going over some specifics, and we had talked to all of you in writing just to make sure that things are going to go the way this developer says, and so.
Cross those Ts.
I would say, Jill, I hate to even guess. We're just getting some things in writing. Another week, maybe 2, is what I'm thinking, so. And we're working on this. We want to get it going. We just want to make sure we do it right, so.
All right.
Sounds good. It's a big deal.
Very quickly on the Cherry Street sidewalk project, after consulting with the city engineer, he feels that we are better spending the money on improving the road surface, and that will take almost all of the $200,000. There are problems with doing sidewalk on that street. There are a lot of right-of-way that would have to be purchased. There are utilities that would have to be moved, and it would take a considerable amount of time. And this is the other RDA project that terminates at the end of this year. So we want to utilize these funds in a positive manner and do a project that can.
Sorry, Cherry Street is right here.
Cherry Street's on 4800 South, about 4th West, and it
About
runs
4th
north off of 4800 South.
Okay.
If you go down it, it curves in back of Lowe's.
Yep.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it's an industrial area.
Yeah.
Industrial park.
Okay.
Okay, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time left for one last item, but I do want to inform you that as we have been reviewing the RDAs and their lifespan, there are 2 RDAs that are due to expire the end of 2023. One is Cherry Street, the other is the Smelter Site RDA. And the Smelter Site RDA basically encompasses the IHC campus and Costco and just a little bit of like where the police training facility is. So it's primarily fully contained on that IHC site there. And the issue that we have, there's a significant amount of money left in that RDA right now because of the revenue that Costco has generated since its inception. There's about $4.6 million in there. And it's a high priority that we utilize those funds for a worthwhile project. So we have been brainstorming somewhat, and we have been talking to other experts in the field about what we can do. And really briefly, some of the options on the table for us, we can seek an extension. It is possible, especially if we take what they call as a haircut. We don't continue to take the full tax increment. So
How long can we
I don't know.
extend it?
That I do not know. So we'll be checking into that. I don't know how long that process takes either. We could potentially see about reimbursing the city for the money spent on Cottonwood Street behind the hospital. The city spent approximately $1 million on that road this past year in improving that road. That wouldn't take all of the money, however. The $200,000 additional money could come to NeighborWorks from this fund as well. So that's something to consider. That money is available. We would like to do another station area plan, the central station area plan. $100,000 would enable us to seek a match to have a grant to do a complete study of the central station area plan there. And that's something that we would really like to see, especially where it's situated next to the downtown and everything. We think that's crucial.
Okay, Phil, just a minute. I'm just going to tell the people who just arrived, we're running late. We're currently with the RDA, and so we'll take a little time and we'll probably start our council meeting about 10 or 15 minutes late. So
I'll
just
try
to let you know.
and be quicker than that. It
Okay.
depends on questions. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And another one, the 60/40 loan program that we've talked about tonight. There's no reason that that money could not come from this RDA as well, as far as I have been told. So that would be $1 million for that. So we're looking at ways that we can chip away at this. It's difficult to come up with a single project that would utilize all of those funds, just because of the complexity of that project.
Right. I have a question. Is the hospital interested, or could they do anything with that as well? If there was some part of their facility that they needed?
Well, again, it would take a lot of advanced planning in that, you know.
Oh, in that time frame. Yeah, you're right. Green space.
Right.
Quick.
You know, yeah,
No, I don't.
there's a whole host of things
Yeah.
that could potentially be done, but our backs are against the wall on that.
What are
Okay, thank
what
you.
are not permitted uses?
Boy.
Like, for example, you mentioned that the police training center is over there. I know that there
have
could be
to
upgrades to
provide-
that, or is that not permitted?
You have to provide a beneficial use to the RDA area. Typically, that has been infrastructure, or, you know, other improvements like that.
So Phil, could you and your group come up with a list of possibilities?
We're
I'm sure you've already
urgently
started.
working on that, yeah.
Great.
It came to light.
Okay, and that's,
You know, just one other thing, we had a suggestion about actually installing protected bike lanes on Cottonwood Street as well. There really isn't any parking on Cottonwood Street. That's something we'd like to explore. Maybe putting a small median on the side, you know, to protect that bike lane there. It looks like it
see,
would
all
be a
the
good
good
project.
uses. We
There
can
are-
spend that money.
There are a lot of projects that we could look at. And so
Yeah.
we are working, we'll be back in touch, but it is an urgent matter, so.
All right, thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach, too. It's good to see you up here.
Yes. Okay, that is it for the RDA, so we are adjourned. We will start back at 6:45 for the council. We have about 1 minute before we need to get started. Everybody's present, awesome. It's 6:45 and time for the Murray City Municipal Council meeting for August 22nd, 2023. So welcome. It's good to see everybody here. It's going to be kind of a short meeting, we'll see. But it's been a really busy afternoon, so please forgive us for starting late. We'll try to catch up. Anyway, all council members are present. We also have the mayor, we have our attorney, and we have Laura, as well as Jennifer Kennedy, our director. So we'll get started with the opening ceremonies. And we have the Pledge of Allegiance. We are very lucky to have Dawnetta Mitchell here, and she said she would conduct it for us. So anyway, Dawnetta. All right, our first order of business is approval of the minutes for council meeting July 18th, 2023, August 1st, 2023, and special council meeting August 8th, 2023. Are there any changes or additions?
I already turned my corrections in to Jennifer, and they were taken care of.
All right. Any others? We good? Okay. All right, I would appreciate a motion.
I would make a motion of approval of minutes for council meeting July 18th, 2023, council meeting August 1st, 2023, special council meeting August 8th, 2023.
Do I have a second? Oh.
I'll second.
Great. Also, I want to put your attention to David Rogers, who is our new council member, and this is his first full council meeting that he will attend. So welcome, David.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Recognition, we have none scheduled. Citizen comments. We are going to have a couple of public hearings later, but those who have citizen comments where they would like to address the council, now is your time to speak.
Hello. Thank you for doing the meetings today later in the day. The first one starting at 5 o'clock. I appreciate that. 5:30 would be even better, but 5 o'clock was great, and that's definitely moving in the right direction. So thank you.
You're welcome. Also, you didn't state your name. Thank you, Clark Bullen, District 3.
Dylan Barney. Something I mentioned to Bill a little bit ago is as I was sitting here listening to the previous meeting, I was glancing around and looked out the window and saw the FOE building. and thought that it would be nice to have some type of a picture out there, something to look at, something to break up the gray space, and something that could compensate the FOA for using their building. The other thought that I had is, I know this is a new building, but maybe the back door needs to be oiled. Again, the name is Dylan Barney. I live here in Murray.
Thank you, Dylan. No further comments? Okay, we'll continue on. Consent agenda, there is none scheduled. So now we are at the public hearings part of our agenda. Let's see, so the staff sponsor presentation, which will be Brenda. Public comment will also be given prior to council action on the next two matters. So we'll start with number 1, which is to consider an ordinance adopting the rate of tax levies for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. Brenda Moore presenting. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you. This is our last step. It's the public hearing for the tax increase that we have proposed. I'll just do a really quick summary and presentation on truth and taxation to refresh everybody's mind, and then we'll go from there. So truth and taxation is the common term used for Utah's property tax system. The statute was passed in 1985. It's designed to prevent property taxes from increasing just because property values are increasing. Cities are guaranteed the same property tax revenue plus new growth each year. The mill levy adjusts down as property values increase. It will also adjust up as property values decrease. That has never happened yet, but it could. There is a process outlined if the city wants to increase the revenue it receives, and we are on the last step of that. So how it actually worked, in calendar 21, our tax rate was 0.001608 with 5.8 billion in property value. Calendar 22, we were up to 7.2, and our tax rate dropped to 0.001513, and at that time, we also had requested a revenue increase. So even though we requested a revenue increase, our property tax levy amount went down. Calendar 23, which is the one that we are in right now, I am requesting, or we are requesting, $351,000 of new revenue. The tax levy will stay the same. The interesting thing is we wanted 5% growth or 5% increase. Our property values actually went up 5%. It's just leaving the tax levy the same to get us the $351,000. The other amount was new growth, $193,000 in new growth, which is a lot for Murray these days. I'm not sure which buildings came online, but that's a higher amount than we have. It's usually right around $100,000. So just so you know where we are relative to the cities surrounding us, we are number 10. So the 10 down from the top. We are including fire and police because our property tax covers fire and police, and other people have it separate. All of these entities are proposing tax increases. We are kind of down towards the bottom. Ours is at, according to the ad, 3.14%. According to my math, it's 3.2. I'm including adjustments the county auditor did, and they are not, so that's why it's a little slightly different. And when we're done with this, Murray will sit at number 10. So we're just going to stay right in the middle. Just so you know, I am not increasing the whole part of your property tax bill, only the city portion. So if you pay $1 of property tax and you live within the Murray School District area, 57 cents of that's going to Murray School District. 16 cents is going to Salt Lake County, and 17 cents is going to Murray City, and then the library and everything else is at 10 cents. Granite School District, they get a little bit higher, 59 cents, and the city's getting 14. The property tax increase is needed because the tax rate is just down unless the city does this process. The increased revenue will cover the cost, or most of the cost, of 2 new police officers, a paramedic firefighter, the maintenance on the 2 new parks we acquired last year from the county, and a portion of the cost of operating the Murray Theater. In 2018, the property tax increase was 45%. We were asked to do more smaller increments. A 15% tax increase was approved in 2022. We had not done one for 3 years. This one is requested at 3.22. On an average house, the average residence is assessed at $521,000. It's $13 per year, or $1.12 per month. Commercial property, it's $24 a year, or $2 per month. And everybody's is going to vary based on their value of the house and whether their house went up or down in relation to their neighbors. So any questions?
I think you did a really good job. Thank you so much, Brenda. I know it's hard, any kind of increase, but 2.2 is not bad.
3.2.
3.
Don't want you to understate it.
Sorry.
3.2.
Anyway, thank you. Are there any questions for Brenda before I open the public hearing?
There's just 2 things I want to note. One, again, is that pointing out on the dollar that you showed that the Murray City piece is the only piece that we deal with at this time. The other pieces are dealt with by other entities.
By other entities, yes, and the library rate is staying the same. Well, the levy went down. We are not asking for an increase for the library.
And originally, when we were looking at this with the mayor, we were looking at 5%, and we were able to collaboratively get together and bring it down, most importantly because the city grew quite significantly and beat expectations.
Because of the $193,000 of growth.
And this adheres to what the citizens have asked us for, which is more frequent, smaller increases.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
And I like how you put $1.12 and $2.03. Some citizens really like that because when they see the 12 or the 13, they just, that's a lot more for them to understand, but thank you. And Brenda, thank you for helping Gary and I as budget chair and vice chair in going through this process. I really appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments, questions? All right, we will open the public hearing. And now's the time for those of you who want to comment to do so. And thanks for being here. We really appreciate all those who have attended and who are watching. So now's your time.
I won't touch it this time. I'm Clark Bullen from District 3. I want to thank the Finance Department for all the hard work that they've done, and the Mayor's Office and the Council, and all of the city departments and staff who worked hard on making this budget a reality. I think you all did a great job. You can tell all the hard work and time that's been put in. I appreciate that we are keeping our city well-staffed and taking care of our employees and keeping them well compensated so that we continue to have the best employees around. As you know, any increase in property taxes has a disproportionate effect on those who have a fixed income. They have these increased costs, but they don't have an increased income each year. I'd like to see the city and county spread awareness regarding the senior property tax deferral program that is new in the county. So maybe a collaborative effort between the city and the county. Some of these hiring needs that the city has are directly correspondent to the amount of growth that we've seen. And I hope we take into account the effect that this growth has on our increasing taxes and how that affects the citizens of Murray. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Okay, your last chance for this one. All right. I will now close the public hearing and take it to the council for further comment or a motion.
I would like to just make a comment. I do appreciate what Brenda did in terms of the growth that we have had in our city and the growth that will continue to come that is mandated by the state. We will have to look at ways within the city and within the taxes to increase those services so that our citizens have a safe space to continue to live in, and also increase many of the services that we provide for Murray in general. So if we keep that in mind, even as we are thinking about what is to come, we will continue to see changes within our staff, and we would have to, I would hope, to increase the staff that we need to be able to handle the growth. And lastly, just say, you know, we are as much involved as a council and as a city and citizens to determine what that looks like for the future. And so thank you.
You know, and I have had a chance, in addition to knocking at homes, and I'm glad that Clark brought up the senior citizen piece, but as I was knocking in another city, there was discussion around one of the opponents' vote for zero tax increase. And I want our citizens to understand what we're doing here is ensuring that we retain the best people on our administration and the best people on our police force, firefighter, and throughout the entire city. And you know, other cities that may choose to not increase property taxes will be glad to take their employees that are not at market rate, because Murray definitely makes sure that we take care of our employees and ensure that they want to stay in what is the best city in the heart of the valley. So I really commend the mayor and his team, and Brenda especially. She is a wizard at this stuff, and it's very, very helpful. And as someone who's in this field, not necessarily in government, but in the field, it's pretty impressive what you do day in and day out, Brenda, so thank you.
I just want to do a quick shout out to Brenda as well. I was following along the process, but following along and being involved in the process are two different things. So I just want to say thank you for helping me come up to speed and understand what was all happening, so thank you.
All right, I will take a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve an ordinance adopting the rate of tax levies for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Harekesi and a second by Councilmember Cotter. Is there discussion, further discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Harekesi.
Aye.
Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
Ms. Cotter.
Aye.
Ms. Dominguez.
Aye.
And Ms. Turner.
Aye. Thank you, Laura. All right, now we go to our second public hearing, which is to consider an ordinance adopting the final 2023-2024 fiscal year budgets for Murray City, including the library fund budget. Brenda Moore.
So you have two choices. I can go through the whole budget process again, or you can entertain. Yeah.
There's no change.
So I figured that would be it. I do have a slide presentation, but the budget has stayed exactly the same. I made the one adjustment to the library from the tentative budget, or when we passed the tentative budget, and that is it. So we're funding lots of capital projects. The theater will continue, the armory will continue, fire trucks, police cars, roads, lots of roads, and the new employees. And we have already ordered trucks. They'll probably be here within 2 years, but we got them ordered, so.
That's good.
That's the way things are going. Okay.
Thank you, Brenda. Okay, I will now open the public hearing. So any of you that are present from the public that would like to make a comment, please do it now. Okay. Seeing none, we'll continue on. Let's see, okay, we'll continue on. I will close the public hearing and take it to the council. Are there any comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance adopting the final 2023-2024 fiscal year budget for Murray City,
Great, do I have?
including the library fund budget.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Dominguez. Is there discussion on the motion? Any?
No.
No.
Okay, then we will continue. Lara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Lefferts,
Aye.
Mr. Rogers,
Aye.
Ms. Carter,
Aye.
Ms. Dominguez,
Aye.
Ms. Tran.
Aye. Thank you, Lara. Okay. That's it for the public hearings. We will now go to the mayor's report and questions from the council.
I'm sorry, I don't see anything about the mayor's report on this agenda. Is it on there? Oh,
It's on the back.
I've been looking on that, but look, ooh, Jennifer gave me that look. Like, you questioned me. Oh. Thanks. Joey, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna steal a little bit of your thunder, but I wanted to be able to be, I think Diane doesn't know this, but maybe she does. When do we get our first electric lightning truck? You're okay, yeah, okay, is that okay if you come there? Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
What?
I found out about an hour ago that right before I came over here that they sold that car out from underneath us. So we're looking for another one, but I can't snag that call. They have a Lariat, but I would rather us not be driving a Lariat version for 10 grand more. That's not a good use of funds in my mind. So we will continue to look. I think we have a little bit of time on our sides. We have a couple of other dealerships. Where we found that one was a little bit of an extra deal because they had them on the lots and they weren't turning them over. And so we had it about 6 grand below where we'd normally pay. So that's where it was a positive. So give me a little bit of time. We'll continue to look. And now that we know you guys are okay, I believe Council Member Diane, you mentioned go ahead and pull the trigger. So I will be a little quicker on signing that paper and getting it going as soon as we can.
That's what the money's there for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see why Diane said it's
Sorry,
heartbreaking. Heartbreaking? What's heartbreaking about this? All right.
Yeah, Nick he was a little upset, but I don't know what.
Or Joey, he didn't know I was gonna talk about it, so he told me tomorrow. Hey, don't worry about that. I could be last to know, don't worry.
There's the others.
Anyway, thanks, Joey. So I was excited, Diane, to let you know that we have that, but anyway, so it looks like we'll be moving forward on that. Building is coming together, as Delynn mentioned, we do have a few squeaks that we need to get fixed. And there are some other things that we're working on, and especially with Jennifer from the council, that we have some things that we need to add to the council office, and so we're working on those. Really, everyone involved. I don't want to mention really any names because everyone's so involved, but thank you. Our employees are amazing. They are working their tails off to fix or add things that we need that we haven't had, and so we have great employees working on those, so thanks to our employees for all they do. That's my report.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for the mayor from the council?
No, but I have a question for the council. When are we going to do our reports for Jackson Hole?
They will be getting scheduled for the September 12th Committee of the Whole.
Okay, great, perfect, thank you.
All right, with that, we are adjourned.